married my best friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when you don't see yourself divorcing your best friend.
Yeah.
Or y'all making a decision to divorce. Like, you don't see that. And it was so hard. What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Cierra Fly Bobo, better known as Fly, and welcome to the first episode of Fly Inside Out, a show that's designed for people, just empowering people with dope conversations around various topics that's going to push the culture forward. I'm just truly excited about being here today. This is the first episode, but on the first episode, it's going to be a little different today. I invited my sister, my good friend, to come in because she's just dope like that, and interview me as I go deeper into what's been going on in my life over the last 3 to 5 years. And so just letting y'all into me on the first episode. So I'm excited to have her with me. She, to me, is a mogul in the making and a legend already. We call her Toya Etz, but she's definitely excellent. Listen, everything she does is authentic. She's truly a sister. She's truly a friend. I invited her to do this because I just knew she was going to pull that realness out of me. As I go into talking about some deep topics. I have a new book coming out called Bouncing Back from the 4 Ds. And the 4 Ds are depression, disease, death, and divorce. And to have that kind of heavy load of how you bounce back from those type of things, I wanted her to come and kind of walk this out with me because slick, nervous, but very excited about being transparent. And hopefully my story can empower you to bounce back from whatever you're going through. And so at this time, I'm introducing my sister. What up, Toya?
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
So happy to be here.
Listen.
Really, honestly, truthfully.
Thank you. Thank you. We about to get into all my business.
I know. I'm good at that. Not intentionally, but just I'm a very curious person.
Yeah.
And kind of knowing your story a little bit already. I'm excited for this moment for you, where you get to share.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to help so many people just by being so vulnerable and so transparent. And we need more of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So thank you for having me. I'm just ready to get to it.
Let's go. No one else could get me to do this like you can get me to do this. That's why I was like, oh, there you go.
So I actually want to start with, I know sometimes, you know, when we get ready to share our authentic story, it could be a little scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So are you having any feelings of fear or surrounding telling this story?
Definitely. Definitely in a way of just like, it's just making me naked for people, you know? And I actually am, even though I'm transparent, I'm very private. Yeah. I know that's kind of like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
But it's easy to talk about things you've overcome a long time ago versus things you're recently overcoming or still overcoming, you know? So, you know, just that kind of makes you a little nervous, you know? But you have to, I believe that the transparency is more powerful than my fear in a way that I do believe it's going to help other people that may be suffering in silence and feel like it's just them, you know? So that gives me the courage to want to tell it, you know? So, but I'm pushing past the nervousness because it is there.
Yeah, no, I get it. It takes courage. It really does to be transparent, to be vulnerable, to tell your authentic story. It takes courage. So salute to you.
Oh, thanks.
And getting into this book, Bouncing Back. So this is your, is it fourth book?
Yes, my fourth book.
So what was different about writing this book compared to other books that you've written? Because you told your story before in your previous books, but what was different about this one?
A lot of the previous books was like childhood stuff, childhood, early adulthood stuff. It was always a good 10-year, 5-year gap. I think when I started writing this book, because again, it's called Bouncing Back from the 4Ds. I was only dealing with like 1 or 2 Ds. And as I started writing the book, more Ds started happening.
Oh, no.
And so it went from being about depression and, really depression at first, and just, not hiding and overcoming that whole mental space. And then I got sick, and then people started dying, and then I got divorced. So it was like, whoa. So this book was like, it was crazy because I started it like 3 years ago.
So it was almost like a journal.
Yeah.
Like you were writing as it was happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally. And vlogging and like just doing videos, private videos and pictures, just taking pictures along the journey, not knowing that more Ds were on the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, but this year I finally was like, okay.
Yeah.
I felt like this was the end of that part of my journey.
Yeah.
And it was now time to, even though I'm still growing and evolving from everything that transpired, but just, it was just happening all at one time. But I just felt like this was the time to kind of like, all right, let me share the journey. Because a lot of people didn't know. And that's the other thing, in my sphere of influence, a lot of people didn't know what I was walking through. People just think she got quiet, or I think with my hair, I cut off my hair, I think people thought it was like, okay, she's going through something. But we don't technically know what she's going through because she's not really telling us, but she's just saying there was some hair things happening. And then I got pregnant, years later, but I haven't really told the story.
So let's go to the beginning of the first D, which you said was depression, right?
Yeah.
That's where this journey began.
Yes.
So let's talk about your experience with depression. Like, is it something you've always dealt with, like through your lifetime, or was it triggered by something?
No, I didn't always deal with it. I'm pretty much a smiley, happy person, especially my origin, just growing up, I would fight and stuff, but I was genuinely a silly, happy person, just personality type. But I think what happened was I was on this journey of like entrepreneurship. I quit my job. I was a teacher about in 2011. I think that's when I started, and everything was going good. Like those first 3 years, I started doing music, and I was like, that was a passion, and writing back then, writing books and performing with my band, which I loved. We were doing different gigs, auditioning for like America's Got Talent. All this kind of cool stuff was happening so fast, and performing in front of thousands of people. And then it's like after years was going by, things began to slow down or change or shift, and I just couldn't figure out my footing anymore. So it was like this rush of like positive emotion, and it just started slowing down. And I remember just feeling like a failure, just like not really knowing who I was.
So when you say things started slowing down, was it the opportunities? Was it financially? Was it?
Yeah, I think it was. Financially, it was a struggle anyway. Because when you quit a stable job and you out here on a hope and a prayer, and you're just like, I got faith, I believe in myself, I think I'm dope. But you're being paid gig by gig, which doesn't come with stability. But at the time, before I got married, I just stayed with my family still because I knew I needed that stability and that support if I was gonna be out there doing something like that.
Right.
Because my bills were minimum, So, but once I like crossed over and got married and trying to be on my own, that presented a stress in itself. Just trying to figure out that navigating gig by gig payment versus like a stable situation. And then it just like a lot of people, my circles began to change. I had circles that I felt like were iron sharpening iron, and we were able to, encourage each other. Those circles things were happening, fractions were happening within those circles where they were separating. So I didn't have that community in a sense to keep me like encouraged and going. And
not to interrupt you, I just want to make sure I'm following the story. So you were doing your music and traveling and gigging and things like that. Things started taking a turn with your music and your friends. or the circles of the people around you.
Yeah.
You were married at this time, or you were not?
No, at the beginning I wasn't. The first 3 years of me like just really going after everything, I wasn't married. Yeah. And before I got married, I had already, I think, published 2 books, 3 like musical albums. My comic book, started my nonprofit.
Yeah.
I had did all of that prior to marriage. But then when I got married, I released another book. Like right after I got married, I released my 3rd book. And did a little, I think I released a single. But I was doing a lot before I got married too.
So was there a point where the depression set in that you remember, like, because sometimes people are depressed and you may not categorize it as that. Maybe I just feel down, or maybe, I just have a string of bad days, but you don't know that you're actually depressed. Was there a time where you actually understood, I'm depressed, I'm in a dark place?
But it was too late by the time, it was almost too late by the time I figured it out. I didn't realize I had these invisible pressures. A pressure to live up to, and then I operate in a weird genre anyway, because I'm from, a lot of my outreach is in my communities where I'm from, urban communities, and then I was getting on these like mainstream stages, and a lot of times people were asking me to filter down my rawness, my edginess. And so I was trying to figure out who I was and conforming and losing pieces of myself along that journey, trying to like navigate both spaces. It's like, I know who I am. I know where I'm from. I know who I speak to. I know how I speak naturally, how I move naturally, how I flow, how I dress naturally. And I was getting in these spaces where people were constantly trying to tell me to change the way you look, change the way you dress. That's too sexy. That's too this. You can't be in this. And I was having all these things. So now that's a invisible pressure on me. Now I'm trying to figure out how to filter how I speak. Am I too raw? Am I too edgy? Am I too hood? Or am I too sexy for this environment? Am I not sexy? It was just crazy because I had all these opinions now coming, trying to talk to me, and I was such a sponge of like, I want wisdom. I want to know how to go to the next level in my career and the things that I do. But then I opened up to so many voices, it became confusing to myself. So that was one pressure. So now I'm trying to figure out, how can I conform to please everybody? So that was one thing. Then you had this thing of financially not really knowing how to navigate that space well, and you struggling. And that brings a sense of sadness in itself when you're like, I can't take care of myself. That in itself was a sadness. And then you had relationship things where I was feeling like I was a new wife. And I was feeling like I wasn't doing a great job. So I was feeling like a failure as a wife. And just trying to navigate that space and trying to figure what that looks like based on all the things people taught me beforehand, and trying to apply it, and it ain't working. And I'm like, okay, what's this space? So many different things happening, I just was feeling like, and then I was trying to get funding for my nonprofit. It wasn't working. It was just crazy. It was just like door shut after door shut after door shut, not winning, not excelling. Facing eviction, all this crazy stuff was happening, and it just put me in a state of sadness, and I didn't know it. And then one January night, I think it was January 27th, in 2018, I tried to kill myself.
Wow.
Yeah, the pressure had built up, and so much, because I think I had just had another contract with an organization, and the relationship didn't go well. So it was another moment of like, dang, you failed. And then it was like, you'll have an opportunity to be on a big stage, and you feel like you didn't deliver it quite when you want to deliver it. And you're like, dang, I failed. And then, navigating the newness of a marriage, trying to, become one. And then y'all not always seeing eye to eye, and you're like, dang, I failed. So it's like all these moments just feeling like I was losing. You know what I'm saying?
So at that time, did you have anybody around you? Were you talking to anybody? Were you maybe not a therapist, or just a community?
I definitely wasn't in therapy.
Okay.
Definitely wasn't in therapy at that time. I had my village, but I think me being private, I didn't always open people up to all those thoughts. Because I would show up and I was performing well at times though. So it wasn't like people knew something was wrong. Because in their mind, they probably thought I was performing well. at times. You give them majority of the time. But for me, in my mind, I didn't feel that way.
So what would you say in retrospect is the line or the difference between being private and being prideful? So it's like, you know, some things I understand are sacred. It's not for everybody's opinion, and it's not for you to openly talk about because it's a private matter. Mm-hmm. But then I think maybe, and you could probably speak to it better than me, sometimes there may be a line of it's pride. Like, I don't want people to know. Like, how do you differentiate pride. The two?
Definitely pride, especially around that financial piece.
Yeah.
Just being real. Like, you don't want people to know how broke you are. Yeah. Because you're on stages, you're a leader, you know? So it's like, shoot, I need gas money to get to the place y'all telling me to come speak at.
Right.
That pride of like, I'm ashamed to even say I'm in this predicament because people are looking to me to encourage them. You get what I mean? So that place, but it is a sense of pride though, if you just be real. I get it, but it is. You get what I mean? But I think I just didn't, I was just trying to figure it out on my own. Yeah. You know, and that wasn't wise. Yeah. Now looking back, it wasn't wise trying to figure it out on my own. Yeah. And then when I would go to certain people, you know, it may not be the right time, or they might be going through something. And so it was just like, where do you turn? And then you don't want to always turn to like those that are closest to you, like even like your mom and stuff like that, because you don't want them worrying. Yeah. So it's like you have that, you just balancing all these things because you're a caretaker. I'm a caretaker by nature, so I'm trying to figure out how I want to put my baggage on you. You know what I mean?
So then take us back to the day. You said January 27th.
Yeah.
It all came crashing down.
Yeah, it came crashing down. I was at home. I think we were having a conversation, and I think I left the conversation just feeling like I just can't get it right. You know what I'm saying? And some of that was tormenting thoughts that I needed to address, but I didn't. You know, but we don't always check our thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. That tormented thought of just you're a failure, you're not good enough. Yeah. You know, and now things could have happened that give you legitimate reason or why you may feel the way you feel. Yeah. But you have a choice in if you stay that way or if you allow that feeling to dominate or you allow those thoughts to dominate. And just feeling like there was no hope. I missed my moment. Yeah. I made it. You know how you feel like you made a mistake and now your whole life is altered forever. I can't get it back. And I can't bounce back.
I'll never have that opportunity again.
And I just kept feeling like I had those moments. Yeah. Like I dropped the ball to the point it was no return. Yeah. And so I became hopeless, you know, and I was in so much pain of just wanting to, I think, be accepted for who I was in a sense too. Yeah. I had some validation things going on. Yeah. And then when you're on these different stages and you're looking for the applause from people, and then you're getting these critiques, and then people telling you this and this, it was just too much. And so that night, I remember going into the bathroom. I think I grabbed like a big bottle of prescription pills, full bottle, turned it over into a cup of water, and drunk it like it was Sprite. I was like, I ain't gonna swallow all these pills. That felt like too much. But I felt like if it dissolved, I could just sip it. And I think I began to slur or something. And so my husband at the time,
Do you think, I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you think you really wanted to die or did you want help?
I wanted relief. I didn't want to feel that pain anymore. Yeah. I just felt so broken. Yeah. Like, I felt so broken. I remember weeping, like the weeping that I did came from such a place. I would just be on the floor weeping, like crying, just weeping. Yeah. And just so broken.
And so were you alone when you drank?
No. I was married, so he was home and he noticed I was like, I guess probably.
So he didn't see you drink
He saw me drinking, but he didn't know what you were drinking.
Okay.
He didn't know what I was drinking until I think I began to like slur or just something. And then he was like, what are you drinking? And then I don't know how, but I eventually told the truth. And of course he grabbed it, poured the rest of it out, monitored me for the night. And, you know, thank God I didn't,
Yeah.
overdose. And I remember waking up the next day, and that's when I knew I wasn't right. So when you asked me, when did you know? I said it was almost too late.
Yeah.
It wasn't until that next morning. I think at that time I had sober mind. When I woke up, my mind was sober. So I was able to look at myself and be like, you're not okay.
Wow.
You're seriously not okay. You're serving at church. You're leading. You're doing these amazing conferences for young girls. You're traveling. You're doing all these things, but you are empty. You are broken. You are not okay. What happened last night is a big sign. And I think from that moment forward started my healing journey.
Okay.
And that was in January 2018.
Okay. So after that, your D's kept unfolding.
Yeah.
And so you went from that state of depression, the attempted suicide, you woke up sober-minded the next day, and then boom.
2 months later, so I knew that I wasn't having fun. Life had stopped being fun for me. So I was like, well, let me try to do something, have fun. And so I said, I'm going to join the kickball team. So I was like, let's do that. I'm athletic. I love sports. I love competition. And it was going to get me around some dope women. I was like, let's just have fun, right? Yeah. I knew I needed that.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I knew. And I signed up for the kickball team. But, us about our hair.
Yeah.
So I normally wear my hair short and relaxed. And I'm like, I can't be playing kickball every week. My hair going to be looking crazy. Let me get braids. So I go to shave off the side of my head and get braids at the top. And when I went to go get a cut from the barber, I noticed there was a gash in my head. I thought he messed up. I was like, oh man, he done messed up my head. You know how we are. I was like, he done gashed me up. So I was like, this man done messed my head up. But then when I went back next week, the gash got bigger. And I'm like, so again, I'm thinking like, what's going on with him? I'm gonna try another barber. I think I switched barbers. But it wasn't a gash. It was hair loss that was starting to get bigger. It was the first patch. I wouldn't have known, though, if I didn't cut my hair. And so the first patch came, and I was like, okay, what's going on? Again, spring is going on. So this is like March when I discovered it. By May, I got this big circle of missing hair in my head. So I go to the dermatologist. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And so the guy looks at me. He said, this is so funny. It was like this white older doctor. And he said, you got to learn how to trust the Lord. That's what he told me.
Wow.
At the doctor's office. This wasn't no Christian doctor or nothing like that. It was just like, you learn how to, you were stressing, you're worrying. He said, this is alopecia. And you got to fix here. And if you don't, it's not going to stop coming out. It's going to come all the way out, and it's not going to grow back.
Wow.
This is what he told me. He gave me like this little solution thing. So I started using solution, but it wasn't helping. So that summer, I was just trying to like, okay, I'm going to start traveling. I can't be stressed. So the typical things we do about self-care. I'm going to take baths. I'm going to travel. I'm going to
get my nails done.
Yeah, I'm doing all of that. Hair still coming out. Yeah. Now it's like coming out more. Now I got 2 patches. Even though I am, honestly, it was relieving some of that because I was having fun now. I'm traveling, I'm doing things, but it was surface, but that wasn't the root issue. So come to find out, fast forward, I'm going to doctors. So this was 2018. So fast forward to 2019, my hair had grew back in the winter a little bit. And so I was excited. I was like, okay, I'm gonna push this thing away, right? Mind you, I'm still under a little stress, especially that financial piece. Moving to 2019, and it started coming back out again. And this time the patches get big, like they get really big. And I was noticing that in the summer it came out more than in the winter. And so I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like, maybe I need more vitamin D. So I'm just like sitting in the sun baking, not putting 2 and 2 together.
And I remember seeing these pictures of, your journey and with the missing patches in your hair. Crazy. And how it went from one small patch to just, and you're a person, you've always been a person, your hair is always in place, laid, and Black women and our hair it's a sensitive thing. So if nothing else, I know your mom,
my mom would fuss at me for 2 things when I was a kid. The 2 things was, why did you mess up your hair? She's a hairstylist. And why you don't have no earrings on?
Shout out to Miss Maria.
Listen, my mama did not play about earrings in your hair. She's
Yeah.
like, girl, go put on some earrings. Like, I'm like, Mom, okay.
Right.
I just woke up. Okay.
Yeah.
But
so I'm sure that was traumatic.
Yeah, it was traumatic. Here I am. I think it was traumatic for her too.
Yeah.
Because my mom has been doing my hair all my life. And for her to look at my head, she told me afterwards, she was like, you know, that's why she asked me to go to the barber a little bit, because her having to see her child's hair come out.
So we went to the doctor. He said, "You're not trusting God."
Yeah, that was funny.
Did they ever find out what it was causing the hair loss?
So went to the dermatologist. Then I was like, okay, let's do some blood work.
Yeah.
Let's really find out the root cause. I'm changing how I eat. I've immediately changed how I start eating and different things like that. And so it kept coming out. So kept coming out in the summer even more. And so paid thousands of dollars. Mind you, I don't have health insurance. So, because remember, I don't have no stable situation, no health insurance. And so I'm still trying to figure out. They run the test, no one figures out. And I go to this Black nurse practitioner. So let me back up just a little bit. I go to this Black nurse practitioner. All the other doctors I went to, they were doctors, medical doctors. And they couldn't figure out what was going on. I went to this lady. I love her so much. But I went to her because I knew her. That's who does my physicals every year. You know how you just have a rapport with somebody?
Yeah.
So I was like, I know you're my doctor, but I just like her, even though she's a nurse practitioner. And she, this story actually goes into another story of death. So at the time, we thought we were pregnant. So this is why I go to her, because she's been like walking with me for the last few years. Like, are you gonna have a baby? You gonna have a baby? And I go to her and she's like, hey, you pregnant? Because the first thing they do when you get there is they take a urine sample. And so she comes in the room, she's excited. She's like, hey, you're pregnant. I'm like, what? Yay, we're excited. And then I take off my hat and I was like, it's hair loss. She said, and she just hugs me. And it scared me so bad, because she just looks at me and she hugs me and she looks back at me again. She said, do you have anything else going on? And I said, yeah, I'm getting these crazy rashes on like my elbows and sometimes on my face. And she hugs me again. And it scared the crap out of me, because I'm like, why is this lady?
Right, like,
she
what do you see? What do you know?
like she came in here and was like lit because I'm having a baby. And then she just like consoling me. She said, it looks like lupus. And I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, what you mean? You know what I mean? That threw me all the way out. So I went from a high to a low in literally 60 seconds.
Wow.
You get what I mean? And so she said, well, we're going to do some screening. She just hugged me. She said, I'm going to tell you, it is possible to have a baby because I'm pregnant. She said, but it does make the pregnancy a little more at risk. And it's just, it could be tough. So I'm like, so I'm immediately shifting into faith mode. Like, okay, God, you know, what the heck? So she said, well, I'm not saying you have it. Let's run the test. So she started running different tests that everybody else was running. And so she said, they'll be back in like a week. And, you know, and I'm like trying to be optimistic. Like, maybe that's not what it is. Maybe it's it. And so we leave. And then I'm trying not to go to that place. That's a different D. But just moving back to the disease part, you know, it was confirmed that they thought it was lupus. And they diagnosed me with lupus in October officially of that year in 2019. And I had to go to a rheumatologist to do the diagnosis. And they said, you know, and I just remember at that moment, like.
So how was that? Like, coming off of the depression and the attempted suicide, and then 2 months later, you know, you have this diagnosis. Like, what did that do to your mental? Or like, how did you?
It was like back to back to back to back, in the midst of me trying to de-stress.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a lot, because the suicide was January of 2018. The hair loss started March of 2018, and it continued all the way into 19. And then in 19, March, again, so a year from when I started losing my hair, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. So March 2019, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. So it's like, what? May of 2019, my mom had surgery, removed the lump. my grandmother, the matriarch of our family, passes away May of 2019.
Wow.
I'm still going through the hair loss.
So that's into your third D, death. So all this is just piling on in a very short time span.
At one time. And so my grandmother dies. She's the first of many deaths that happens from 2019 to now.
Wow.
And so that happened. That's my great-grandmother, the matriarch of our family on my mom's side. And then my mom starts chemo that summer, 2019. She loses her hair. So I'm having patches. My mom loses her hair. But I'm trying to be strong for her. So I'm showing up to my mama chemo, sessions with a hat on, because I started wearing fedoras and hats, just trying to disguise it to keep my style. Yeah. Just trying, to figure it out. And then August is when I found out, September is when I found out I was pregnant and possibly had lupus. So my mom finishes chemo right around that time. But then September 11, 2019, 3 days after I found out I was pregnant and possibly had lupus, I miscarried.
Wow.
So
just pause for a second, though. Just for a second. Just for a second.
Yeah.
Just for a second.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes our life flows a little bit like this conversation. Like the hits keep coming and we never stop. It's just kind of like, oh, I just keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, I just keep going. I just keep going. I just keep going. And we never pause. We never just stop to breathe.
Yeah.
To think.
Yeah.
To just exist.
To feel.
To feel.
Yeah.
To be. To not try to fix it. To not try to figure it out, but just like pause. You know what I'm saying? And I'm listening to this, and I know you're telling it in retrospect.
Yeah.
But some people who will be watching it are in the midst of when it rains, it pours, and they're getting hit from every single side.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, at that point, it's like, Lord, I surrender. What do I need to do?
Yeah.
So I just want to talk about when you're in the midst of an onslaught of trouble, of tests, of trials, how do you make it through that? How do you just get up? How did you do that? Like your mom, your grandmother, the miscarriage, the lupus, the hair loss, the depression, just take me to a moment, or how do you press forward in the midst of that?
I remember at the hospital on September 11, 2019, when I was miscarrying, literally in the process of miscarrying. I called my mom. She was very short with me, which I knew it hit her. Because remember, she's like chemo, and she's so excited about the baby. So I tell her, I said, Mom, we miscarried. And found out she lost it on the phone with my husband at the time. And I called my grandparents, and I remember my grandfather said, I don't know why this happened. He said, but I know God loves you. So he either was protecting you or he was protecting the baby. But he loves you. And I remember in that moment, I was just crying. And it gave me so much comfort. Like, I don't know why this happened, because I was so excited about being a mom. But I know you love me, and I'm just gonna trust you. And I think at that point, I turned my phone off for a couple of days. People that needed to know knew, and if they needed me, they could go through him to get to me. But I just, because of course, from a physical perspective, the baby has to pass. So I'm bleeding, for days, and just having to go through that physically, and then also emotionally and spiritually. And while still thinking I possibly could have lupus. It was a lot. It was a lot. And then what's crazier is the next week was FLY Life Conference.
Wow. So in the midst of all of this, would you recommend that someone going through something similar, maybe the conditions are a little different, but an onslaught of this life happening, would you recommend someone still doing a conference in the midst of that?
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
I think for me, I needed it.
Yeah.
If I would have stayed home and not did the conference, I really, really felt defeated. Just being honest. That's me.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a Band-Aid for me. It was a
release or outlet.
Yeah. It was like, I'm still going to go do this purpose. I'm still going to empower this next generation. I'm still going to let these girls know they're fly inside out.
So your grandmother passes, the matriarch of your family, and you said after that it's just death after, because we're on the third D and you're still going.
Yeah, because it was her, then it was the baby.
Yeah.
And then after that, I get the diagnosis in October officially, because September 11th is when I miscarried. Got the diagnosis officially in October. And then that's when I got so sick. It was like, once the diagnosis came, I got so sick. My eyes were always bloodshot red, like to the point where people were like, are you okay? I was so small. I was already small because I had changed how I was eating, just to try to be healthy. And I was just small. I was frail. The first medication they put me on was dangerous. And I think it was making me sicker, just to be honest. I couldn't try to conceive on that medicine. You had to sign like a waiver, like you can't try to conceive, period, because it was detrimental to the fetus and me. And I was like, but God, I want kids. And so it just didn't sit well with me. And so I remember that day in October or November, I shaved all my hair out because it was just so patchy. It was no more hat hiding it. So I just shaved it all off. Tried to wear wigs, but wigs just don't look good on me. Or it's not my thing. And I was just like, okay, God, I'm just gonna wear these hats and rock the bald head. And I remember going before God and was like, I need you. This is a lot. This is a lot. I don't know how I got here. I just felt so broken, and I just was willing to do whatever it took to change. So I just went before him and said what to do. Yeah. Like with a notepad, I was looking for some clear instructions. I wasn't looking for like, it's gonna be okay. No. What do I need to do? And I sought him in that way. And he gave me wisdom. And he was just like, one, you got to figure out your financial situation. It's too stressful. You need more stability. Here's how you shift that. I did. I said, okay, boom, boom. Updated my resume. Nothing was too big or small for me to do. Pride was out the door. It was like, no, I need to fix whatever needs to be fixed. Pull back from this. Right now, you need to reserve your energy because I was very like lethargic. So I couldn't give out a lot of energy. I had to stop serving. I had to stop running around a lot, different things like that. And so I just had to have a whole life shift. I started therapy. To really figure out some of those deep things that needed to be unpacked inside of me. It was just like this whole 180 personalized plan for me. And that's why I think it's so dope to have a relationship with God. Yeah. Because a lot of the things, like he told me to switch doctors, stop taking that medicine. I switched doctors. He told me so many things that helped my life turn around. Yeah. But I couldn't have got it out of a Bible, just out of, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like the Bible inspires the relationship, but the relationships give you that tailor-made plan for your life. Yeah. And that's what I tapped into, and that's the only way I survived the pain and the discouragement that I was feeling at the time.
Wow. So after you go through depression and you go through the diagnosis of the disease, and then deaths are happening, and then divorce. Yeah. Whew. So in the midst of this.
Yeah. Well, on the
almost tail end?
Tail end.
Okay.
Yeah, the tail end, because good news came. My mom was completely cancer-free. I did lose my uncle Lawrence, and then my Aunt Carolyn. And so those were two more very special people to me and my family. And so that happened. But then in the midst of all of that, a year went by and I just would never own the lupus. I acknowledged it, I wasn't one of the people like, I ain't sick.
Yeah.
Girl, you ain't got no hair. You 120 pounds. You sick.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't own it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't go around proclaiming this is who I
Yeah.
am. This is my diagnosis. No, this is what the doctors diagnosed me with. But this is my faith. And I only told a small group of people that I knew that was going to believe with me. And we took a journey of faith. And I just was doing everything God told me to do. And in the midst of all of that, I feel like I just kept proclaiming healing.
Yeah.
I just kept believing like my hair gonna come back.
Yeah.
My hair gonna come back. I'm not gonna have these rashes all over my face. I'm gonna live well. I'm gonna live long.
So what does that look like? Is that like you praying every day? Is that certain things you're saying, confessing? Is that what is that faith walk or holding on to your faith? What does that practically look like? What did it look like for you?
For me,
I mean, besides the instructions God specifically gave you, were there any other things that you did? Any books you read? Any?
Ooh, yeah. Well, the first book I read once I miscarried from that angle was The Supernatural Childbirth. Mm-hmm. That book really helped me, the Audible. Mm-hmm. I'm an Audible kind of person only because I'm busy. Mm-hmm. So I could listen to a book while I'm getting dressed, driving, but I had that book on repeat. I was sleeping to that book just to keep my faith, like, because the first thing that happens when you have miscarriages, am I not going to be able to have kids? Mm-hmm. Am I going to have another miscarriage? Am I going to keep having miscarriage? Mm-hmm. All these thoughts of fear. So I had to attack that. So I was like, I heard this book was great. Let me try it. It worked for me. It may not work for everybody else, but it did boost my faith in that area to keep it like, no, I'm going to be able to have children one day and I'm going to have a healthy and supernatural pregnancy. Yeah. So that was that angle. And then I had so many angles I had to attack those. Yeah. So then from the health angle, I found a testimony on YouTube of a lady who was delivered from lupus. And I kept playing that over and over again. It was at Michael Todd's church. It was a lady that I think was a member or something, but she was delivered, healed from lupus. So she went to the doctor and it wasn't there no more. So that encouraged my faith there. Like, yes, that's what I'm believing for. I will be healed from this disease. So I will find little nuggets. It wasn't always long or deep, but it was just little things that kept me believing what I wanted to believe in. Yeah. And so I found a message on healing from Dr. Dalla. And it actually happened the month I was diagnosed officially. But it's my favorite message he's ever done on healing. And it was on how to possess your healing through grace. And I've never heard him break it down that practical before. Because he broke it down to like what medicines, how God tell you to really move on a practical level. And I think I listened to that message like 100 times. Yeah. I kept it on repeat. Another thing, just boosting that place. And I did the practical things. When God told me to switch doctors, I did. When he told me to switch medications, I did. And I benefited. I have a great rheumatologist that has been walking with me. And the reason why I knew he was the one for me and it wasn't the other lady is because I told him I want to have kids. He was like, oh, that's possible. Like we were on a journey of like, no, let's get you back to health. And that's what I needed, So all those little things.
So it was a mixture of what you spiritually did, what you did with your mental and therapy, working with your natural doctor. So it was a holistic approach.
Yes. Eating.
Yeah, how you ate.
I found out that sun triggers flares. That's why my hair kept coming out more in the summer. Wearing sunscreen. Shout out to Black Girl Sunscreen. Yeah. So I found that sunscreen because at first all the sunscreens I was using had like a white cast. So I was walking around looking like Casper. But then I found Black Girl Sunscreen and I was using that. And I was like, okay, so the sun causes it to trigger it, which causes the hair to come out. That's why the summer it got worse, in the winter it got better. So learning wisdom of, okay, so I got to be careful with sunlight. I have to be careful watching what I was eating. Not eating things that were high create a lot of inflammation in the body, which can cause arthritis. Because
all types of diseases.
Lupus is basically when your immune system. But this is the thing right here, though, T. Lupus is when the immune system begins to attack the good stuff in the body. So it's confused. So then I started studying the emotional side. God took me through it all. He said, I'm like, God, how did this happen? How did this happen? And we knew it was the stress, but I had a lot of trapped emotions. and a lot of trapped emotions that were triggered from trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And when your body knows that something triggers your trauma,
Yeah.
your body goes into what they call fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
If you don't get out of that mode, it eventually would shut down.
Yeah.
And it would create, that's how they say dis-ease in the mind
Yeah.
turns into disease in the body,
Yeah.
or dis-ease in the mind turns into disease in the body. That's how.
Because it's crazy, because everything physical has an non-physical aspect to it first.
Yeah.
So it's like the what we see physically is like the trees,
Mm-hmm.
and then what we don't see in non-physical is like the roots.
Mm-hmm.
And everything you see is mimic, like even our physical organs in our body mimic spiritual organs.
Yeah.
And spiritual centers. So it's just like this is digestion. So this controls what you consume and how you release. Spiritually, there's spiritual organs that control our consumption and our release in the same way.
Yeah.
And so things that regulate your brain and your mind. Also, in the unseen realm, there's things that regulate your brain and your mind, your emotions, different chemicals that are released, and so on and so forth. And we don't think about that.
No.
You know, we don't think about, oh, my immune system is confused. 9 times out of 10, there's some level of confusion in your spiritual body first.
You know what? I looked it up. I was and that's another thing, research.
Yeah.
Research, learn, study. And what happened is with lupus is, and a lot of autoimmune things like that, is what happens is when you're so harsh on yourself, your body attacks itself.
Ooh, that's a word.
You know what I mean? I was feeling rejected at the time. I was feeling
self-loathing.
Yeah, remember all these people kept telling me, and I'm embodying other people's words about me. I'm becoming confused about who I am, who I should be to fit brands and all this stuff.
And it began to manifest into a physical disease.
And it manifested into a physical disease.
That's wow.
I began to eat away at my own self.
Wow.
Literally, right?
Wow.
Literally. And I'm so grateful for the fight that I had, that God put in me to say, I'm not going to accept this though. I think a lot of times you have to come in agreement with things. And when you do, it just will take you over. But I refused to come in agreement with it. I acknowledged it. I understood what the attack was so that I know how to counterattack.
Yeah.
But I never in my mind wanted to sit back and just take it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, you came for the wrong one. Like, no. If you came from somewhere, you can go back somewhere.
Right.
Like I could change some things. And that's why the healing started in 2018 from the suicide attempt, because I had to now dig deep and pull, would you say the roots? I had to pull out, how did I get to a place that I even allowed people's words, actions, people's rejection of me to shake my core like that, to where I even became confused about who I was.
Yeah.
I was so unhappy, T, for so many years.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
And, people always be like, oh, happiness, you don't worry about being happy. No. Happiness matters.
It does.
When you're happy, it releases chemicals in your body that help you thrive and live long. When you're unhappy, and you're unhappy for so long, just to please people, just to please the church, religion, whatever it is that you're trying to live up to, you're killing yourself in the name of God. And it ain't God.
It ain't God. It's nowhere near what God would have for us.
No.
So let's talk about the final D.
Yeah.
Divorce, which I can only imagine while life is happening in this type of way. Probably the safest place, or the place you would want to be the most stable would be the place you come home to, or the relationship that you come home to. So talk to me about.
That one probably was the hardest.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy.
It doesn't.
That one was probably the hardest, because I married my best friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when you don't see yourself divorcing your best friend, or y'all making a decision to divorce, like, you don't see that. And it was so hard. It was so hard because thank God, as God was beginning to heal me inside out, my body began to heal. I got pregnant. We have a beautiful daughter now, which is a blessing. That's why I tell people, don't never believe the report of the doctor about what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a sweatless pregnancy and delivery.
Yeah.
Despite everything.
Yeah.
And so that's another high, right?
Right.
And then as we bring her home and thinking like, oh, here's our new life, you know, I think the course of us being married came to an end, you know, just a couple months with her being here.
So how do you, because a lot of people stay for the kids.
Yeah.
You have a baby and it's like, oh, this is a reason to stay. We just have this baby. So obviously we're just going to work it out. How do you get to a place where you decide to move on even after going through everything you went through, having this beautiful baby? How do you come to that decision?
I think she motivated us in a weird way because I know I wasn't healthy. I wasn't healthy.
In what way? And when you say that?
Emotionally.
In the marriage.
In the marriage.
Oh.
I wasn't healthy. Neither was he, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think neither one of us was healthy.
So what does that look like? So, because again, it's going back to, you know, sometimes we're experiencing these things and we don't know, like, am I tripping? You know what I'm saying? Am I just being difficult? Am I just not putting in enough work? Am I just not praying enough?
Yeah, because we were married almost, this year would have been 8 years, you know, so that's not like a 2-year journey. We you know, we walked out over 7 years of marriage together. But I think that what it looked like for me was I lost myself in the marriage trying to perform as a wife. And it just made me it added to the depression. And it wasn't that, and he would say, be yourself, but I didn't know how that fit within the union. And I was trying to be, it just became this thing of like, I didn't know how to be myself in the marriage. Yeah. And even though it was encouraged, I felt rejected. I just felt a lot of different things. And then I think for him too, he had his things that he felt. And then I think for a long time, he would always tell me, he said, you just seem so unhappy. But I was unhappy about a lot of different things that was occurring in my life. And
so do you think the fallout of the marriage, do you think it was a result of everything that was going on? Or you think it was a total, like, maybe this just isn't a good fit?
I think where me and him have landed is that there were some compatibility things there. And we come from two different worlds from the start. We come from two different backgrounds, two different worlds. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't fit. And I think ultimately what he needs in a wife, I wasn't giving. And I think there are things that I may have needed. And I just think that compatibility thing just wasn't there. And
so how did you miss that?
I think we got married quick.
Okay.
And I'm not saying getting married quick doesn't work for some people. Yeah. But we started dating in May because we were friends first. We were friends for 3 years. And at first I was just like, no. I was like, no, I don't see that. I don't see that. But we dated from May to December. We were married. All in, that's like 6-7 months. We didn't have enough time to learn. I think if we would have learned, we would have moved differently. But we just went off the high of the rush of the first phase of things. Yeah. And as life began to happen, it changed me a lot. And so just different things just happened. But we're still friends, which is crazy. I think everybody around us think we're weird. Yeah. Someone in my family said we got a 2022 divorce. Like we ain't never seen no divorce like this because we genuinely care about each other. I wish nothing but the best for him. But I knew my soul was sick. Yeah. And the trauma that I had that I'm still healing from was being triggered in my marriage and vice versa. And I think that it was healthier. One day, I think I was crying about something. He looked at me and he was like, I don't want our daughter seeing her mom this unhappy. and vice versa. I wanted him to be happy. I think he looks healthier now. Like I see him and I'm like, you looking healthy, boy. You know what I'm saying? In a joking way, but I can't say I love somebody and want them to stay with me so bad, even though I love them with all of me, and perish.
Yeah.
Whether it's their soul, their dreams, their whatever. No, let me set you free to go be your best self and vice versa.
Now, what about this part of it? Because when you talk about divorce and then you're talking about divorce and you serve in church and you're a leader and you're an example, and I know sometimes that's met with resistance or, divorce is not an option, or, you stay and you work it out.
Yeah.
How did you reconcile that, like with your faith and, dissolving your marriage?
When you're at a place where you're so broken, again, each one of these deeds had me in a place of brokenness.
Yeah.
And when you're at a place where you're so broken, you only value God's voice, because He the only one could pull you out of that place. And when I got peace about divorcing, and He had peace, but for me, because I can only speak for my portion of it, when I got peace, it didn't matter what any leader or any organization thought of me, and I just knew I had peace. And I think when we first got married, I didn't have total peace about the timing of it. Even though I was on board and I wanted it, I didn't follow my total peace. And now I'm in a place where I don't ignore my total peace. If I have peace about something, I don't do it. But if I have peace about something, I do it. And Toya, that was the craziest part, because I was weeping for months. You walk through me with it, because I love him. You know what I mean? From a place of that was genuinely ride or die for him. And I didn't understand why I had peace about leaving. It was confusing. You get what I mean?
I do,
And then on top of we have this new child, but I also knew I'm at a place in my life where I can't afford to be sick, not authentic to myself, not in a space of being whole. And I don't understand why, but I do understand it's God. And I just had to follow that. And I want nothing but the best for him, and he wants nothing but the best for me. And I think that's why our divorce isn't toxic. Because there is a genuine love for each other, but there also is a general understanding that this wasn't it. Like, not in this next season of our life. It wasn't.
And I want you to speak to, I understand the genuine love. But there's also a tearing, a severing of a tie, that even no matter how much you love someone, it's painful. There's a grief process associated with that. And everybody doesn't have the benefit of having amicable divorces. So how would you speak to the part of overcoming the pain of it, of the sever of the tie?
When we first decided, I remember I went to go spend the night with my mom. Something about that mama comfort, because I felt like, and I think I told you this, I felt like somebody took a steel boot and kicked me in my stomach. Like, out of all the deeds, this was the most painful. And I know that sounds crazy, that you would think the lupus and the losing the hair, because that was extreme pain. But no, the divorce, it just, because I felt like I failed. Because I didn't get married to get a divorce. And I wanted my daughter to grow up with both parents in the house. That shame, I felt so much shame, so much inadequacy. Like, I felt like I wasn't enough. Because if I was enough, I could have kept my marriage. That pain is a deep pain, and I had to literally go to my mama's house and just spend the night for a few nights and let that love reaffirm who God made me to be. And that was painful. And it's still not 100% whole yet. I'm still walking out that hill, because that's fresh. That happened this year. That's not something that I could say 2018, 2019. So I'm on the other side of it, because I accept God's love in that place. And now I'm doing the work to unravel some of the trauma that I had that was triggered, that was before the marriage and the relationship, that I got to heal from, you know, and not putting myself in a place that need validation, not even from your spouse. all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing that work.
Yeah.
So that if I ever do again in the future, decide to get married again, I'm going in there better prepared. I definitely have a better understanding. I'm going to do a whole episode on divorce because that in itself is just a lot to unpack.
It is a lot. It is a
marriage,
lot.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
How we've been taught.
Yeah.
In previous years in the church on what marriage. All that stuff wasn't accurate, and it's okay because it came from a good heart, but it wasn't right.
Yeah.
You know? And if you just live by that, you may not win.
What's the next on the horizon for you?
I think the number one thing that really my ultimate victory in life now is living in my fullness.
Mm-hmm.
Living in the fullness of who God made me to be, and not compromising that.
Yeah.
And so that's what's upcoming for me is every day relearning me and learning the new version of me and giving myself space to become a new version.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be who I am today 3 years from now, and that's dope.
Yeah.
And being okay with that, and being gracious towards myself. That's the healing journey I'm on. That's what I'm most excited about. Like, yo, who are you? Like, you really finna figure out who you are.
Yes.
What you like, what colors you like, how you like to decorate. Like, even with living on my own now that we're divorced, it's like, I've never lived on my own. I mean, my daughter, lives with me primary most of the time, but, but as an adult, I've always either lived with my family and then I got married and boom.
Yeah.
But just what you want your house to look like.
Yeah.
Like,
it's important.
Like what kind of space an atmosphere, an environment do you want to create when people walk into your doors? What kind of environment do you want to raise your daughter in? All that type of stuff. So it's fun stuff.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
As someone who's walked with you for a long time in many aspects, it just is so beautiful to see your fearlessness and your courage and your fight.
Thanks.
And you just constantly persevere. Like, no matter what happens, you find a way to just keep persevering. And that's so inspiring to me. And I'm sure many, many, many other people that you may not even know you're inspiring just are watching you. So thank you for letting me be a part of your journey.
Thank you.
Also for allowing me to be here today to have this conversation about your new book. And I look forward to just seeing you continue to be as amazing as you already are, and just more and more and more and more and more. If you can imagine that,
Thank you.
I look forward to it. So
I appreciate it, T. Like, and that's another thing I would like to say to people. Like, as women, I don't think we give our roses enough to sisterhood, friendship.
Yeah.
Like, we always gotta be like, who we cutting off? And I get it. There's seasons where we cut off people and relationships evolve.
Yeah.
But I feel like we need to give more energy towards those sisters that are there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And you've been there for me, and I'm so grateful. Like, your friendship has helped propel me in all different types of seasons.
Yeah.
Whether I was having a winning moment, whether I was, sick, whether I need to be reminded not to compromise my true authentic self. And so, listen, ladies, give roses where they're due, because no one owes you nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So when you have people that love you genuinely and really want to see you win, you celebrate those people, because it's not guaranteed,
Yeah, I'm all about the village of women and teen women and whatever we could do it's so, I'm not gonna say hard.
Yeah.
It comes with so much, being a woman, being a wife, being a mom, and all those expectations and that we have that I don't know if men have it too. I'm not a man, but I know what it feels like to be a woman, and it's so important to have the village of women around you just to hold your head up and be there for you and let you lay in their lap sometimes and just cry it out, who accept you for who you are, and you don't have to, being in a situation like you as a leader, sometimes you just have to constantly put on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Before you walk out the door, you have to make sure you good, or somebody's always calling and you got to make sure you Johnny on the spot.
Yeah.
And having those spaces to just be, without having to put anything on, with no preparation, without having to have the right thing to say all the time.
You cherish those
It's
environments
valuable.
and the people that foster those environments.
Absolutely. Please cherish those people. Please.
I don't know what I would do without my village. I know I went through it so fast because it's just the first episode and we're going to break down each thing, but my village, God and my village.
That's it.
God in my village. The people was like, you're still beautiful with your head shaved.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'll never forget that moment when you invited me on stage in front of thousands of people, and I was bald, and you wanted me to do a poem on worth. I said, this ain't no setup. At the time, I was hiding like a mug.
To set up a person or two.
Man, I was like, and I knew I couldn't say no.
You were the only person for it. You were just the only person that came to mind to do it.
I was like,
even in the midst of that, I
had no hair on my head. It was crazy, but I remember.
And you killed it.
I came out there in the hat though.
You did.
Because the hat was my comfort during that season. And God was like, you got to take the hat off on stage. I was like, what?
Yeah.
In front of all these people, they're going to see me looking like this. And I did it.
You killed it.
But there was a level of a yes that day. And Christina, you know Christina?
Probably by face, maybe.
Yeah, you know Christina. She screenshotted the picture of me.
From New York.
From New York.
Yes, I absolutely love her.
Of me
Hi,
on stage.
Christina.
Hi, Christina. On stage that day.
Yeah.
And I was like in this like a lioness stance with my hat in my hand and my bald head. And I was just like, it was like me saying to hell, like, you still can't take my yes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still worthy because he made me worthy. But that was a
beautiful day.
That was a
That's a crossover. It was a crossover.
That was the last Sunday we had church before COVID.
Yeah, I remember.
The world shut down right after that.
I remember because we were preparing for a conference that was supposed to be in person.
Yeah.
And we had to switch to a virtual conference in like 2 days.
Yo.
Yeah.
It was like that moment had to happen though.
Yeah.
So thank you for creating those moments for me.
Of
break
course.
out and be, free.
Of course. Always and always. My pleasure.
So listen, y'all, we kind of invited y'all into our friendship for a moment. So I forgot y'all were there. But no, thank you, C, for coming today. I appreciate you. This was the first episode of Fly Inside Out. We will be dropping more episodes on Fly Fridays. But listen, if you're going through any of the D's, I know I was zooming through, but I know the pain. My pain was real. Trust me. Depression is not like something to be taken lightly. Mental health is not something to be taken lightly. Disease, whether it's lupus, cancer, diabetes, alopecia. I know people were making fun of Jada, calling her vain, and I knew the pain of losing your hair.
Yeah.
So I don't think we've given her enough grace in that space.
Yeah, for sure.
Because of everything that transpired, but
for sure.
That's a pain. It's a difference between losing your hair by force and cutting your hair by choice. I'm just gonna say that. And then also death. Unfortunately, a lot of people have lost a lot of people. And I named 4 with, my grandmother, my other grandmother. I didn't even get to my grandmother, Sparks. She died October 2020. Another deep wound, extremely close to her. So 5 deaths for me in the last 3 years. That's a lot. And so I know a lot of people are experiencing that. So just know you can bounce back from all those things. And in divorce, it's unfortunate, it sucks, it's painful, it's hard, but there is life afterwards. And you can still thrive and fulfill purpose. And God is not disappointed in you. He's not ashamed of you. You're great. And so great things are still ahead. So please stay tuned as we drop more episodes around the 4 Ds as we lead up to the book release October 4th. And I just pray something we said inspired you, encouraged you. If not, come back. We're going to have more for you. But this is Fly checking out. Peace, y'all.